The silence in Earth's Central Command was deafening. Admiral Sarah Chen stood motionless before the holographic display, her weathered features illuminated by the red emergency signals pulsing across the screen. The message from New Haven Colony had arrived just moments ago, their final transmission before going dark. "Play it again," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The AI complied, and once more the desperate plea filled the command center. "This is Governor Marcus Shaw of New Haven. We are under attack by Kraxan forces. Their dreadnoughts just appeared from hyperspace. Our shields, they're not holding. Civilian casualties here." Static interrupted his words before he continued. "Earth must know. They're not here to conquer. They're here to..." The transmission ended in a burst of white noise. That was 6 hours ago. Long-range sensors confirmed what they all feared. New Haven, humanity's largest extrasolar colony with its population of 3 million, had been reduced to atomic dust. Admiral Chen turned to face the gathering of Earth's highest military command. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "for 2 centuries we've maintained our facade of minimal military capability. We've let the galaxy believe we were nothing more than clever merchants and peaceful colonists. That deception ends today." The room's main display shifted to show a vast network of hidden shipyards scattered throughout the solar system, each concealed within asteroids or beneath the surfaces of moons. In these secret facilities lay humanity's true power, a fleet of 700,000 warships, each incorporating technologies that had been carefully kept hidden from alien eyes. "Protocol Sleeping Giant is now in effect," Chen announced. The words triggered a cascade of activities throughout the solar system. Hidden bases began to stir to life. Quantum computers that had been running battle simulations for decades started uploading combat data to AI cores. Soldiers who had trained in secret their entire lives emerged from underground facilities. Far beneath the surface of Mars, General Marcus Way, commander of the First Strike Fleet, watched as his flagship, the ESS Nemesis, powered up its systems for the first time. The massive vessel, like all ships in Earth's hidden fleet, represented the pinnacle of human military engineering, a perfect fusion of AI assistance and human intuition. "The Kraxan Empire believes they've struck a devastating blow," Chen continued. "They think they've crippled humanity's expansion into the stars. What they've actually done is awaken a force that will reshape the galaxy." She paused, allowing her next words to carry their full weight. "For generations, we've prepared for this possibility. Every human child who reached for the stars knew that one day we might face extinction. Instead of cowering, we built. We planned. We evolved." The room's atmosphere changed as tactical displays came to life, showing the positions of Earth's dispersed forces. The fleet wasn't just massive. It was revolutionary. Each ship carried technology that had been developed in absolute secrecy. Quantum-entangled communication arrays that were impossible to intercept, dark matter drives that left no energy signature, and weapon systems that could rewrite the laws of physics on a localized scale. "The Kraxan Empire has existed for 10,000 years," Admiral Chen said, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's response. "They've conquered hundreds of species, absorbed thousands of worlds. They believe this makes them invincible, but they've never faced humanity at war." She turned back to the tactical display, where the first waves of Earth's fleet were already moving into position. "They destroyed one of our colonies, believing we would break. Instead, they've given us unity of purpose. Every human being, from Earth to the farthest colony, now stands as one." The command center erupted into activity as battle plans that had existed only in simulation began to unfold in reality. Ships emerged from their hidden docks, their crews ready for a war they had spent their lives preparing to fight. The greatest military force humanity had ever assembled was awakening, and with it, the galaxy was about to learn why humans were different from every other species the Kraxan had encountered. "Send this message to all commands," Chen ordered. "Operation Righteous Thunder is now active. Phase 1 begins in 6 hours. The Kraxan Empire will learn that humanity doesn't break. We evolve, we adapt, and we overcome. And now, we strike back. As the message went out, Chen allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. The Kraxan had made a fundamental mistake. They had judged humanity by its visible achievements, its apparent military capability, its seemingly peaceful nature. They had failed to understand that humans had never forgotten their violent past. The time for waiting was over. Humanity's response to the destruction of New Haven would become legend, a story told across the galaxy for generations to come. It would begin with 700,000 warships emerging from hiding, but it would end with something far more significant, a fundamental shift in the balance of power in the galaxy. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, and Earth was ready. High Admiral Crix of the Kraxan Empire stood aboard his flagship's observation deck, his scaled hands clasped behind his back, as he watched the debris field that was once New Haven colony drift through space. The destruction had been total, efficient, a message to humanity about the futility of resistance. Yet something bothered him about the ease of their victory. "My lord," his second-in-command interrupted his contemplation. "We're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the sector." Before Crix could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. Not in one place, but in thousands of locations simultaneously. Through these rifts emerged ships unlike anything the Kraxan had ever encountered, sleek, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Impossible," Crix whispered. The tactical display showed not dozens or even hundreds of ships, but thousands. Then tens of thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. Each vessel bore the mark of Earth, but these weren't the primitive spacecraft the humans were known for. These were weapons of war that shouldn't exist. Aboard the ESS Nemesis, General Marcus Way watched the Kraxan fleet's reaction with cold satisfaction. "All ships, execute battle pattern Omega. Show them what humanity has been working on for the past 2 centuries." The human fleet moved with impossible precision. Ships that should have been clumsy behemoths danced through space with the agility of fighter craft. The dark matter drives that powered them left no energy signature for the Kraxan to track, making each vessel a ghost that could appear anywhere, strike, and vanish. "Sir," Way's AI tactical officer, ARIA, reported, "the Kraxan are attempting to form a defensive sphere. Their shield technology remains formidable." We nodded. "Deploy the Phase 1 weapons package. Let's show them how humanity fights." Throughout the human fleet, weapon systems that had been theoretical just decades ago powered up. Quantum disruptors that could unravel the fabric of space-time itself. Gravitational lenses that could focus the energy of nearby stars into devastating beams. And most terrifying of all, swarms of self-replicating nanite clouds that could strip a ship to its atomic components in seconds. The battle that followed would be studied by military historians for centuries to come. The Kraxan fought with all the skill and power that had made them the galaxy's supreme military force, but they were facing an enemy that had spent generations preparing specifically for this moment. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, their AI systems working in harmony with their crews to predict and counter every Kraxan tactic. When the Kraxan adapted, the humans adapted faster. When the Kraxan revealed new weapons, the humans had countermeasures ready. "My lord," Crix's tactical officer reported, panic evident in his voice. "Their weapons, they're not just defeating our shields, they're analyzing them. Each hit makes them more effective against our defenses." Crix watched in horror as his fleet's supposedly impenetrable shields were systematically dismantled. The humans weren't just fighting. They were learning, evolving their tactics and technology in real time. Aboard the Nemesis, Wei received a priority communication from Admiral Chen. "The Kraxan reinforcements will arrive in 30 minutes, General. Make sure they understand the full extent of their mistake." Wei turned to ARIA. "Initiate Protocol Prometheus. All ships, execute synchronized strike pattern Delta 7. The human fleet moved as one, their formation shifting into a complex geometric pattern that seemed to defy traditional space combat doctrine. Then, in a display of technological supremacy that would be remembered for generations, every ship activated its quantum synchronization field simultaneously. The effect was devastating. The combined fields created a cascade of spatial distortions that trapped the Kraxan fleet in a web of warped space-time. Ships that tried to escape found themselves moving in impossible directions, their advanced engines useless against the fundamental rewriting of physical laws. This is General Marcus Way of the Earth Space Force, his transmission cut through all Kraxan communications. You destroyed one of our colonies, believing us to be weak. You judged us by what we showed the galaxy, never questioning why a species that advanced so quickly in other areas seemed so behind in military technology. That was your first mistake. Your second was assuming that humanity's greatest strength was in our ships or our weapons. As he spoke, the human fleet tightened its formation, preparing for the killing blow. Our greatest strength is that we never, ever stop preparing for the worst. Every peaceful trade agreement we signed, every diplomatic mission we undertook, every scientific breakthrough we shared, behind it all, we were getting ready for this day. The Kraxan ships, trapped in the quantum web, could only watch as the human fleet's weapons powered up for a synchronized strike. This is but a fraction of humanity's true military power, White continued. The message we send today isn't just for you, but for any force that might threaten our existence. Humanity will not be conquered. We will not be subjugated. And we will answer any attack with overwhelming force. The battle ended not with a prolonged exchange of fire, but with a single devastating demonstration of power. The human fleet's combined attack reduced the pride of the Kraxan armada to its constituent atoms in seconds, leaving only Krix's flagship intact to carry the message back to the Empire. As the surviving Kraxan vessel limped away through hyperspace, Wade turned to his bridge crew. Send word to all commands. Phase 1 is complete. Prepare for Phase 2. We take the fight to their territory. The sleeping giant was fully awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Kraxan High Command facility on Centauri Prime buzzed with frantic activity. Emergency meetings had been running nonstop since the devastating defeat of their fleet at New Haven. Supreme Overlord Vextal, leader of the Kraxan Empire's military forces, watched the tactical displays with mounting dread as reports of human strikes flooded in from across Kraxan space. They're not just attacking our military installations, his strategic advisor, Korin, reported. They're systematically dismantling our entire infrastructure. Supply lines, communication relays, hyperspace navigation beacons, all targeted with precision we've never encountered. Vextal's facial tentacles writhed in agitation. How? How did we miss this level of military capability? The answer came in the form of another massive assault. Human warships appeared simultaneously at 30 different strategic locations across Kraxan space, each fleet employing different tactical approaches that seemed specifically designed to counter Kraxan defensive protocols. Aboard the ES at Hyperion, Admiral Sarah Chen watched as Operation Hydra unfolded. The ship's quantum AI, Prometheus, displayed real-time analytics of each engagement. The Kraxan are adapting their defensive formations, Prometheus reported. Probability of successful counter-tactics, 82.3%. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. They still don't understand. Execute Phase 3. Throughout human-controlled space, massive structures that had been disguised as civilian stations revealed their true nature. These were the nexus points, quantum computing hubs that could process and analyze battle data from thousands of engagements simultaneously, feeding tactical updates to the entire human fleet in real time. All fleet commanders, Chen broadcast, initiate synchronized warfare protocols. Show them why humanity spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. The human assault transformed into something the galaxy had never witnessed. Each fleet began operating as part of a single vast neural network. Ships moved with impossible coordination, their actions guided by both human intuition and machine precision. When the Kraxan adapted to one strategy, they found themselves facing three new ones. On the Kraxan homeworld, Vextol received increasingly desperate reports. "My lord, they're not just defeating our forces, they're studying us. Each engagement reveals more of our tactical doctrine, and they're using it against us." The humans had turned space itself into a weapon. Quantum disruptors created zones where Kraxan technology simply ceased to function. Gravitational weapons bent space-time into impossible configurations, trapping entire fleets in temporal eddies. But most devastating was the psychological impact, the growing realization that they were facing an enemy that had spent generations preparing specifically for this conflict. "Send the reserve fleets from the Outer Rim," Vextol commanded. "All of them." "Sir," Corrin protested, "that would leave our subsidiary worlds undefended. Those worlds will be irrelevant if we can't stop this human advance." But the humans had anticipated this too. As the Kraxan pulled their forces from the Outer Rim, they found human diplomatic vessels waiting at each abandoned world. These ships carried not threats, but offers of alliance, protection, and technological exchange. Everything the Kraxan had denied their subject species for millennia. Admiral Chen received the reports with satisfaction. The Kraxan made a fundamental mistake, she explained to her command staff. They thought military power was about ships and weapons. They forgot that true strength lies in preparation, adaptation, and most importantly, understanding your enemy. The tactical displays showed the results of this philosophy. Human forces weren't just winning battles, they were reshaping the strategic landscape of the galaxy. Each victory brought more of the Kraxan's former subject species to humanity's banner. Each engagement revealed new weaknesses in Kraxan military doctrine. "All fleets, prepare for final phase engagement," Chen ordered. "Target: the Kraxan Central Command Structure." The response came from hundreds of fleet commanders simultaneously. "Acknowledged." On Centauri Prime, Vextol watched as human ships emerged from quantum space around his command center. Their formation was unlike anything seen before, a three-dimensional matrix of vessels that seemed to pulse with energy. "My lord," Corrin whispered, "they're broadcasting a message." The human transmission was clear and direct. "To the leadership of the Kraxan Empire, you believed you could strike at humanity with impunity. You thought our apparent lack of military development meant weakness. Instead, you've awakened a force that has spent centuries preparing for this exact scenario. Your choice is simple: immediate unconditional surrender, or witness the full deployment of humanity's military capability." As if to emphasize the point, the human fleet began a synchronized energy buildup that made every sensor in the Kraxan command center scream in alarm. Vextol, supreme leader of an empire that had stood for 10,000 years, found himself facing a choice that would reshape the galaxy. As he stared at the tactical displays showing human fleets advancing across Kraxan space with unstoppable precision, he realized that this wasn't just a military defeat, it was the end of an era. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, their ships, or even their tactical brilliance. It was their ability to turn every defeat, every challenge, every threat into an opportunity for advancement. The Kraxan Empire had ruled through fear and military might. Humanity would reshape the galaxy through preparation, adaptation, and an unshakable determination to survive. Dr. Elena Santos stood before the combined Galactic Council, her holographic form projected into the ancient chamber, where representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered. Behind her, tactical displays showed the ongoing dissolution of the Kraxan Empire's military might. But she wasn't here to discuss battlefields. "The war is merely the visible face of humanity's response," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "The true revolution is happening in the hearts and minds of the galaxy's people." As Earth's chief diplomatic officer, Santos had orchestrated what many were calling the Silent Strike, a massive psychological and diplomatic campaign that was proving as devastating as any fleet action. In the chambers of the Kraxan High Command, now under joint supervision, Supreme Overlord Vextal watched his empire crumble not through military defeat alone, but through something far more insidious: hope. Another system has declared independence, his aide reported. The Proxima cluster is requesting Earth's protection. Our remaining forces are standing down. Vextal's defeated posture told the story of an empire that had failed to understand its true enemy. The humans hadn't just prepared military responses to Kraxan aggression. They had spent decades studying the empire's social structure, its political weaknesses, its cultural pressure points. Aboard the ESA Athena, Admiral Chen reviewed the latest strategic analysis with Dr. Santos' hologram. The Kraxan never understood what they were actually fighting, Santos explained. They saw our ships, our weapons, our tactics. They never saw the network we were building. The display showed the fruits of humanity's true strategy. While the Kraxan had focused on military targets, human diplomatic vessels had visited hundreds of subjugated worlds. They'd brought with them not just promises of freedom, but practical support, advanced medical technology, educational systems, infrastructure improvements, all the things the Kraxan had denied their subject species. We didn't just build warships during our centuries of preparation, Santos continued. We built relationships. We studied every species under Kraxan control, understood their needs, their aspirations. When the moment came, we didn't just offer them freedom, we offered them a future. The results were devastating to the Kraxan power structure. World after world declared independence, protected by human fleets but empowered by human knowledge. The Empire's own military forces, seeing the transformation sweeping the galaxy, increasingly chose to stand down rather than fight. In a secure quantum conference, Earth's leadership discussed the next phase. The Kraxan expected us to behave like them, Chen observed. To conquer, to subjugate, to rule. They never expected us to offer partnership instead. Santos nodded. That's the fundamental difference. The Kraxan built an empire through force. We're building an alliance through mutual benefit. Every world that joins us makes us stronger, not through military might, but through diversity of thought, of culture, of innovation. The tactical displays told the story. Kraxan military installations were surrendering not to overwhelming force, but to their own people. Former subject species were forming democratic councils, establishing trade relationships, sharing technology that the Kraxan had hoarded for millennia. The art of war isn't just about winning battles, Santos quoted. It's about achieving victory without fighting when possible. The Kraxan thought they were facing a military power. Instead, they're facing an idea. That idea was spreading across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. Human diplomatic ships carried not just weapons, but libraries of knowledge, cultural exchanges, medical breakthroughs. Every world that welcomed them found not conquerors, but partners eager to learn and share. In the Galactic Council chamber, Santos concluded her address. Humanity's response to the destruction of New Haven wasn't just military, it was philosophical. The Kraxan Empire believed that power flowed from the barrel of a gun. We're showing the galaxy that true power comes from cooperation, from mutual growth, from the free exchange of ideas. The council chamber erupted in support. Representatives from formerly subjugated worlds spoke of transformation, of renaissance, of a new age dawning in the galaxy. The Kraxan Empire had ruled through fear for 10,000 years. It was falling not to superior firepower alone, but to a superior idea. Admiral Chen watched the proceedings from her command deck, a small smile playing across her features. They thought they were starting a war, she mused. Instead, they catalyzed a revolution. The displays showed human ships throughout Kraxan space, but they weren't engaging in combat. They were protecting newly independent worlds, delivering humanitarian aid, facilitating cultural exchanges. The 700,000 warships that had shocked the galaxy had become instruments not just of war, but of transformation. The true art of war, Santos' hologram remarked, is knowing when to fight and when to build. The Kraxin never understood that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't our military might. It was our capacity to turn enemies into allies, to transform conflict into cooperation. As the galactic order reshaping continued, one thing became clear. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war. They had prepared to remake the galaxy into something better than what had existed before. The destruction of New Haven hadn't just awakened a sleeping giant. It had unleashed a force for fundamental change throughout known space. 5 years after the destruction of New Haven, Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the New Haven Memorial Space Station. The massive structure orbited the exact coordinates where the colony had once existed, its crystalline spires reaching out into space like frozen flames. But it wasn't just a monument to the dead. It was a symbol of humanity's transformation of the galaxy. The last Kraxin holdout surrendered this morning. General Wei reported, his hologram shimmering beside her. The transition is complete. Chen nodded, watching as ships from 100 different species passed through the nearby transit lanes. Where once there had been only Kraxin military vessels enforcing imperial will, now there was a constant flow of trade, cultural exchange, and cooperation. Have you seen the latest reports from the Galactic Development Council? Dr. Santos asked, joining them virtually from Earth. Her diplomatic corps had been instrumental in shepherding the galaxy through its transformation. Former Kraxin subject worlds are advancing at an unprecedented rate. Access to unrestricted education and technology is creating a renaissance across known space. The observation deck's displays showed the scope of the change. The former Kraxin Empire had been transformed into a network of independent but interconnected worlds. Earth didn't rule this new order. Instead, humanity had helped establish a genuine democratic federation, where each species contributed its unique strengths to the whole. The Kraxin never understood what they started when they destroyed New Haven, Chen mused. They thought they were eliminating a threat. Instead, they catalyzed the greatest transformation in galactic history. The station's quantum arrays brought in real-time images from across known space. On the former Kraxin throne world, a new parliamentary complex housed representatives from every species in the Federation. Former slave worlds now hosted universities where knowledge flowed freely. The Kraxin's military installations have been converted into research centers, medical facilities, and cultural exchange hubs. We've received another petition for membership, Santos reported. A species from beyond the former empire's borders. They'd been watching our transformation. They want to be part of it. This was perhaps the most profound change of all. The galaxy was no longer divided between conquerors and conquered. Earth's response to the destruction of New Haven had demonstrated a different way. One based on cooperation, mutual defense, and shared progress. The memorial ceremony begins in an hour, Wei reminded them. The families are gathering. The annual commemoration of New Haven's destruction had become more than a remembrance of tragedy. It was a celebration of resilience, of transformation, of humanity's capacity to turn devastating loss into profound change. As survivors and descendants of New Haven's population began arriving at the station, Chen reflected on the journey that had brought them here. We spent centuries preparing for war, she said, but what we really built was the foundation for peace. The station's great hall filled with representatives from across known space. Former Kraxin military officers sat beside leaders of worlds their empire had once enslaved. Scientists from 100 species shared discoveries that would once have been hoarded as military secrets. Children from different worlds played together, their laughter a testament to the new reality they were building. To those who died at New Haven, Chen began her address, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall and broadcasting across the galaxy. You did not die in vain. Your sacrifice showed us that humanity's greatest strength isn't in our weapons or our warships. It's in our capacity to unite, to transform, to build something greater than ourselves. The holographic displays showed the extent of that transformation. The 700,000 warships that had shocked the galaxy were still there, but their role had changed. They now served as guarantors of peace, protecting trade routes, conducting rescue operations, and ensuring that no species would ever again threaten galactic stability. "We thought we were preparing for war," Santos added, addressing the assembled dignitaries. "In truth, we were preparing to reshape the galaxy." The Kraxan Empire ruled through fear for 10,000 years. It fell not just to superior firepower, but to a superior idea that cooperation is stronger than conquest, that diversity brings strength, that knowledge shared multiplies rather than divides. As the ceremony concluded, Chen watched ships departing for worlds that had once been bitter enemies, but were now steadfast allies. The destruction of New Haven had awakened humanity's military might, but it had revealed something far more powerful: their capacity to transform conflict into cooperation, enemies into friends, and an empire of fear into a federation of hope. "The galaxy will never forget New Haven," she said softly, "not because of how it was destroyed, but because of what its destruction created. A new dawn for all species, a future built not on domination, but on the simple idea that we are all stronger together than we could ever be apart." As the memorial lights blazed across space, illuminating the path forward for countless worlds, the galaxy understood a truth that the Kraxan Empire had failed to grasp. Humanity's greatest weapon was never their warships or their technology. It was their capacity to imagine a better future and their determination to make that future real, no matter the obstacles in their path. The dawn of a new era had truly begun, and it was brighter than anyone could have imagined.